Hi everyone, welcome to Belmont Poetry Night. My name is Jackie Argoni. I am the Poet Laureate of Belmont, California. I usually like to start our poetry readings by lighting a candle. And I do this because it kind of sets the space for us to show reverence for this time that we've set aside to be together for some healing, inspiring, provocative words, or simply just to be here together in community at a time when that is so important for all of us. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that this land that I and many of us here are living on is unceded Ramaytush Ohlone territory. I also want to acknowledge that the role of Belmont Poet Laureate is to elevate poetry and in the community. And because poetry is about speaking truth, I support Black Lives Matter, and so will the position of Belmont Poet Laureate as long as I am in it. And finally, this month we celebrate Women's History Month, and I look forward to the day when we don't need to relegate women's history to 1 month of the year. Belmont Poetry Night is hosted on the third Tuesday of the month, generally at the Belmont Library in Belmont, California, and I look forward to the day when we can meet again there in person. And for the time being, we have been able to welcome people from around the world to our town of Belmont for Belmont Poetry Night. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us here for our featured speaker and to join in community for poetry. I'd like you to go ahead, if you didn't do so before, go ahead and write in the chat where you are calling in from, and if you know which territory that you are on. It has been my honor to host Belmont Poetry Night for the past 3 years, serving as Belmont Poet Laureate. My term is up in June. So in anticipation of that, to show my deep appreciation for this truly special community that has grown in the time that I've been here, I'm delighted to feature one of our poets who showed up on one of my very first poetry nights and consistently has enlightened us with her poetry, her presence, her encouragement nearly every single month. And I'll introduce her in just a moment. We will have our featured reader up first, and then that will be followed by open mic. We had a few people sign up for 1 poem each, and there may be time for more. So if you're interested, I'll invite you at the end to volunteer to read a poem of your own or of a favorite poet. And I will be putting the reading order in the chat. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy. And since everyone but the person speaking will be on mute, you can also show your appreciation with a few things, such as the American Sign Language sign for applause. And sometimes we use same, me too, just when something's resonating with you. And, any other way you want to show your appreciation and to let the reader and the community know what's on your heart and mind.
Yeah, they're good.
I'm so glad you're here. And again, welcome. So I'm going to mute a few folks here real quick. Okay, let's get right to it. Lois Fried is a member of the California State Poetry Society and a very favorite at community open mics. She has read her poems on a podcast and before an audience of over 1,200, as well as publishing one of her poems on a Yammer post. Lois has spent over 30 years working in human capital management, and she has her own company, LKF Consulting LLC, which supports small businesses right here in our community. She earned her BS degree in business from Excelsior College in Albany, New York, and she is here tonight to share her poetry with us. I believe this is the first time as a featured reader. Is that correct, Lois? Yeah, great. So please give Lois a warm welcome and your open heart to hear her words. Thank you, Lois. So glad you're here to share with us.
Thank you, Jackie. And I am just so honored and privileged to be here and just feel that it's such a joy to have this spot on tonight with all of you. Jackie, we met in October of 2018. And when I found the Belmont Poetry Group, I thought I came home to tell Michael, I found this group of people who I just resonate with so well. And it's just so beautiful to see a number of the members that are always with us every month and to hear tonight. And to have family from Texas and all around the Bay Area are here. So I'm just feeling a lot of blessing and honor. And then friends from all over the Bay Area are also here, friends and family. So thank you for coming out. I know it's going to be a little bit of a late night for my Texas family, but remember, if you get sleepy, you can sign off in about a half an hour and head to bed. So without further ado, I want to get started and share my words. And again, thank you very much, Jackie, for allowing me this space to be able to share my words. The very first poem that I'm going to share with you will be around spring, because spring has nature and seasons are just my favorite poems to write. All of the seasons, anything in nature that I can touch and feel and smell, I want to write poetry about it. And growing up on the farm in Texas gave me a love for the seasons, because much of the work that we were doing around the farm had a lot to do with how the seasons change. So the very first poem that I will share with you will have a hint of all the seasons in it, and I call it Seasons of Love. Cold, harsh winter storms, icicles dripping from a hint of sun, lovers cuddling by the fire, bringing only warmth to last throughout the onset of spring. Birds chirping, cherry blossoms sprouting, families taking long walks before the April showers come. Catching rainwater for its sweetness in a recycled metal drum. Lazy, hot summer days fold into cool, dark autumn nights. Cold, harsh winter storms, icicles dripping from a hint of sun. Seasons of love, worth repeating again next year. Thank you. My next piece is another poem about spring, because spring will happen this coming Saturday. Now, there's still cold weather around the country, but springtime is coming this Saturday. So the next poem will be All Things Springtime. And I wrote this one last spring. Springtime has cast its early glow. Purple lilacs burst seamlessly out of the ground with an aromatic fragrance to kickstart a happy Monday. Primroses and daffodils drop colors of soothing optimism. Bluebirds with new songs beckons us to sing along. Waterbirds and geese glide peacefully in the lagoon, waiting to feel the raindrops from showers coming soon. Putting away heavy coats, caps, navy blues, grays, and blacks. Looking forward to brighter colors, lighter colors, and longer days. Awaken springtime with hope, innocence, and fresh inspiration. Thank you. This next poem, I was sitting, this was July of 2019, and I was sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden my ears just heard this noise outside my window. So I started this poem thinking about the noise on the street, the cars and the jackhammers doing road work and all of the noise right outside my window. But as most poets do, our poems start to evolve. And this poem then took me all the way to the devastation that was happening in July of 2019. I wrote this poem that summer. We had bombings and mass shootings. You all remember Charlottesville and Charleston, South Carolina, a few years before. Poway down near San Diego, Sri Lanka, New Zealand. There were mass shootings and bombings. 2019 just seemed to have somehow had that kind of energy going on. So this poem melded into a full poem about man-made noise drowning out the sounds of nature. Stop with your horns, sirens, jackhammers, and jets overhead. Give me bird calls, raindrops collecting in the watershed. No more weapons testing, aircraft carriers, grenades of war. My ears long to hear leaves rustling in the breeze and the red robin's early morning song. Silence the gunshots, bomb explosions, and mortar. Bring back brilliant running brooks, the almond tree, and streams of living water. Stop with your mouth wide open, spewing words of hate and despair. Give me distant sounds of clear, unblurred voices of children singing and rhyming their own tunes. No more massacred, displaced bodies occupying the landscape. My eyes long to see beautiful blooms of the native wildflowers covering open space. Silence the motor noise, jet rumble, fleeing people in crumbling cities. Bring back everyday sounds of cheerful celebrations, music, and yellow calla lilies. Stop with your graffiti art of hatred. Give me prayers of tolerance that are sacred. No more Black church and synagogue shootings or mosque blown apart. Show me art of love, linking heart to heart. Sounds of nature drowning out man-made noise. Drowning out man-made noise. Thank you. And my next piece that I will share with you is about a river in Texas. And for those, my relatives and certainly friends know about the Brazos River. And if you've ever driven a car through Texas, you probably crossed a bridge and the Brazos River was running underneath. Or if you flew in a plane, you may have looked down and saw this rambling river flowing through the plains of Texas, the Brazos River. So I call this the Brazos my river. The Brazos River of my youth lies 19 miles east of where I was born. The river could be still and calming, unruffled by a tiny storm, or fierce and mighty from torrential downpours and floods, bringing surging waters, debris, and tons of mud. Dad prepared our home and our minds for survival. We were ready months ahead of the river's angry arrival. The rising river took out houses, bridges, highways, anything in its path. I have experienced its calmness and its wrath. But in the aftermath, I still love how it crosses the rolling hills and canyons as it winds its way through the Lone Star State. The Brazos, Rio de los Brazos de Dios. It intoxicates, intimidates, and always infatuates. Thank you. And my next piece is a piece that's very dear to me, to my heart. My sisters and I lost our dad in March of 2017. And it took me until last year to put my feelings to paper and into words. But I've done that. So hang in there with me, everyone. I'm going to get through this piece. I simply call it March 2017. In the month of March, in the year 2017, my father said goodbye to this world. The night before, he had smiled and hummed his favorite gospel song. At dawn, Dad faced the beginning of the end of life. The letting go, the slipping away. A look of peace fell upon his face as he silently said goodbye to his bedroom. The oak bed and the handmade quilt, the mahogany dresser that held a few of his favorite things. Family pictures, the vintage cufflinks and tie tack, the ceiling fan above the bed, and the mounted knick-knack shelf on the wall. His snakeskin boots with the boot jack neatly placed in the corner of the room. The hospice nurse arrived in time to monitor his breathing as she softly stroked his brow. She gave him the shave she had promised the day before. I held his strong and beautiful hands as he gasped to grab his last earthly breath. The room was consumed with peace, silence, stillness, and love. Daddy was gone, but he left a legacy of kindness, compassion, honesty, and trust in the memory of all who shared his space. My sisters and I dedicated the next 25 days wrapping up the life of a man who had a heart the size of the state where he lived and loved his whole life. My first day back home, I went for a walk that was quiet, serene, and tranquil. The colorful annuals and strawberry ground covering stretched along the walkway. On his last visit with us, Dad had commented about the beauty of the perennials and the weeping willows in another season there. Without even trying, I had found a place in my space where I would think of Dad often and smile. Thank you. My next piece. Now, I know you're saying, I hope she ends on a happy note. Well, there was a lot of love in that poem I just wrote. And I will end with love. I have one more poem that is about family. A lot of my poetry is family and love and nature and seasons and headline news. So this one, I have been asked to read again. I read this last month at our meeting with Jackie and our community here. And I was commissioned to read this poem again. And this one is about my brother, who was really my best buddy growing up. And I call this one Black Boy. My brother lived a short life on this earth, dying from heart disease at the tender age of 17. He was a little Black boy who loved to do all the things little boys do who live on a farm. He was lean and handsome, quick-witted, funny, sharp, and mischievous. He was a little Black boy who loved the skin he was born in. His love for life and living was in the smile that he woke with each day. Sadly, others could not see in his short little life the joy he felt in the morning. They saw a Black N boy, Black thief, Black ape. The saddle and tack store worker saw a little Black boy who he would give an evil eye if he touched the belts, cowboy hats, and Black shiny boots. My brother saw one-of-a-kind belt buckles, the Black cowboy hat with a slick leather band, and a whole wall of fancy boots. The movie theater attendant saw a Black boy who he signaled to go to the back entrance, where he climbed the stairs to the balcony that was dark, dingy, and smelly, with torn seats and stale popcorn. My brother ate the stale popcorn, twisted in the torn seats, but smiled with the joy of seeing the latest Western on the big screen. The superintendent of schools saw a little Black boy who would never read well or learn math. My brother looked forward to a fun ride on the school bus, going to the blackboard to do his arithmetic problems and getting a smile from Mrs. Williams when he got it right. The sharecropper saw a little black boy. He could work like a man and pay him $1.25 for a day's work. My brother saw a day of adventure and discovery in the cotton, corn, and sugarcane fields that surrounded our little shotgun house. My brother was strong, brave, and courageous, facing open heart surgery at the tender age of 12, when little was known about heart disease. I am sad that he only lived life for a short period of time in a world that hated him just because of the color of his skin. But I'm grateful that he was able to take his last God-given breath. Grateful that he never had a knee on his neck. Thank you. Jackie and we get emotional. Yes, we do. And my last piece is my love poem, and I call it Perfection. It was a perfect day in the East Bay. It was a perfect day in San Francisco. It was a perfect day at the Montgomery Street BART station. It was a perfect day when the rain started. It was a perfect day when the stranger behind me on the escalator said, "Hello, I want to know you, or I will never see you again." It was a perfect day when I gazed into his eyes and handed him my business card. It was a perfect day when he left a message to say, "Hello, when can we meet?" It was a perfect day when we met and sat across from each other for several hours without the thought of time. It was a perfect day when we vacationed on the Queen Mary. It was a perfect day 1 year later when we were married on the Queen Mary. It was a perfect day when we landed in Paris to begin our honeymoon adventures. It was a perfect day when we held our adorable little baby boy 3 years later. It has been 11,680 perfect days since the first perfect day in San Francisco. Thank you.
Lois, what beautiful tributes and beautiful words for your whole history. Thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Thank you.
Really happy that you could be here, and really happy to have so many of your family members here and community members to support you.
Yes.
And, it's been an honor to evolve with you as a writer and to watch your evolution. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
And again, I want to thank you, Jackie, and certainly thank all of my family and friends and community of poets that are here. Monica, who has been so instrumental, and I'm sure there are others that are out there. Shashay, if you're out there.
Yeah,
Yes.
there. It's great.
Thank you. I don't know if Lisa is here or not, but these are the ladies that have just lifted me up throughout this adventure and this journey. So thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Thank you again. We will now go to our open mic portion, and what I wanted to do before we did that is just let you know that each month that we've been hosting, I've been trying to record, and so in the chat I've put the YouTube link to Mirna's reading last month, and I will also record this and put it up on YouTube for you to share. So keep an eye out for that link as well. I'll put the order in the chat for who we have so far. We do have room for open mic. If you want to read, I'll check in with you afterwards. So right now, I'm going to go first, and then we'll have these people in the chat following me up. So, okay, let me start. Also in the chat, I'm going to put my a link to my first book of poetry, which is coming out, which is available for pre-order and is coming out next month, just in time for Belmont, or for National Poetry Month. And this one is just a short one to pick up on the theme from that Lois offered to us, the theme of spring. And this poem is called "When I Realize I Don't Need to Hear I'm Sorry, Even Though It Would Be Nice." Spring again, and all the daffodils push their prayers through dark. How do they know which way and when? It must have nothing to do with dirt. I think they don't do anything. I think they just stop resisting. I think I can forgive you without you. Thank you. And next up, we have Carol Park. Will you start us off, Carol?
And Jackie, do you remember you're going to make it possible for me to share screen?
I do. Thank you for the
Okay.
reminder.
It's lovely to see you all here tonight. And this is a poem that started in the fall, and it's taken till springtime to finish it.
Perfect timing.
But it's about more than the fall fruits. So rather than looking at me, I have a picture I want to show you. So this is my first time to try to do this. Yep, here it is. Okay, good. Bitter to tender. The Fuyu persimmon gives a mellow bite, firm and squat, coral-colored and apple-like, with hint of cinnamon spice. But the long and tapered hachia type puckers the mouth with astringency when its orange is mistaken for ripe. No surprise, many say no to this persimmon, or how owners of a bountiful tall tree allow their harvest to fall, or birds to peck and dine. I reach for these persimmons when green leaves them and pile firm fruit in a straw basket. Their orange fires my rooms turned nippy. Even their leaves, forest flat, round with points, somehow sate me. I tend them as infants while they color and soften as sockeye salmon. Others divine hachia as a bitter fruit. I stay mindful of two sides, how their blaze on platters lights my winter rooms, how with time and nursing, they turn tender, bright, and sugary. That's it.
Oh, Carol, thank you. I love having the visual, and I love what an added layer that is. Thank you so much. And thanks
You're welcome.
for bringing another season into our midst here.
Yeah.
Thank you. And next up, we have Ed and my cue. Hi, Ed. Welcome.
Hi. This is the season for awards. We've got the Academy Awards coming up. So I yanked out my acceptance speech that I wrote. I accept my ears that used to stick out, and my chef boss at Joseph's in Boston called me Clark after Clark Gable when I could hear better. And the ears are a lot closer to my balding head now. I accept my once nimble feet, the bottoms of which feel like cardboard in bed. I am glad I have a nice bed. I accept my polka dotting memory, well, they call them brownouts of senior moments, and it may be all for the best for some of those moments. I accept the diabetes, the strictures, the poor breathing, getting aches and headaches and all sorts of others, but I can still walk, eat, care. I think of all the songs we sang with our folks, with Dad thinking his 7 kids were his own very own barbershop harmonized. And had I died young, I could have avoided so many problems that arise. And but my life says more to me than my list of sorrows and joys. And that's the end of the acceptance speech. But I've got a little sort of a coda to it about explanations of how to build a life. It takes forever because life is built from the inside out, from the bottom up, but you do it upside down from the top like you're digging a hole when you're really building a frame and hanging a skin around. That is from the inside out when it's upside down and the light isn't so good. And everything has to be tilted and turned. It's hard. It takes forever, but it's your life. Thank you.
Thank
you very much
for the poem and the coda. Beautiful. Thanks. And so Mirna Herschel will be up next, but I wanted to just take a moment. I see we have so many amazing poets in our midst, and so we have a few spots for open mic. If you'd like to read, just please put your name in the chat or raise your hand. And we'll try to get through as many people who want to volunteer as we can. But next up we have Mirna Herschel. Hi, Mirna.
Hi, Jackie. Hi, everybody. Okay, this is a brief poem. Lois, beautiful job. It was really wonderful. Very, very moving. This is different. And it's called Of Different Strengths. You board it only once. The cruise starts slowly, then spins out in a whirl. Hold on to the rail you must, or fall to the side, be left in the dust. Have you lost your nerve? Not enough speed, not enough verve to lift your face, ignore the bruises on your hands. Get up, challenge, fight. Life is for the strong. Move over, weaklings, go pick the daisies. The world bows to a winner. It does not revere inner victories. But what of those who know their strength and refuse to play the game? In the realm of flowers, the gold coins are not beautiful, but to see that, one must walk the meadow. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mirna. Thank you. Beautiful to hear your poems again. And Phil was going to read, but he was going to come late and he's not quite here yet. And so I don't see anybody who would like to volunteer other than we have Patty bringing us in. So last call for any readers. And if you're on the fence and you are thinking, I'd like to read, but I'm nervous or I don't know what to read, or I want to say this is one of the most welcoming, loving communities to dip your toe in the water. And so I would love to encourage you to pick a poem and just practice reading it with this welcoming community. So I'm going to go ahead and have Monica read next, and let me know if anybody else would like to read. Go ahead, Monica. Thank you. Monica Corda.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I hope all of you can hear me fine. Great. And just wanted to take a quick moment to say, Lois, how terrific you were. No one would believe this was your first featured reading. So, so proud of this moment for you. And all your poems, they are so timeless in the way you write them, and the simplicity with which you say the profoundest of things. I just loved that part of each of your piece. So thank you so much again. And thanks to Jackie for bringing the local gems from Belmont. And yeah, because Lois began with a piece, spring piece, I thought I'll read something today in the same light. The piece doesn't really have a name or a title. I'll just go ahead with it. This garden refuses to exist unless you sit with it, have a conversation like old friends do over a cup of chai, stirring memories from those shade and sunshine days when dragonflies glided by and a row of little ants made their way into the heart of the sweet smelling earth. Thank you. Thanks so much, and thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow, I'm feeling so much outside right now with everyone's beautiful poems bringing us out there. And finally, we invite Patty Leggett wants to read a poem for us for our last poem of the evening.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. This is a wonderful, amazing community, and I'm kind of a latecomer to the group, and I've missed the last couple months, and I regret that I wasn't able to make those. But I want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you, Jackie. Like I said, this is an extraordinary community, and this poem is for all of you. This is my dedication and gift to you from Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who very recently passed away. And a short poem, Poetry as Insurgent Art. I am signaling you through the flames. I am signaling you through the flames. The North Pole is not where it used to be. Manifest destiny is no longer manifest. Civilization self-destructs. Nemesis is knocking at the door. What are poets for in such an age? What is the use of poetry? The state of the world calls out for poetry to save it. If you would be a poet, create works capable of answering the challenge of apocalyptic times, even if this meaning sounds apocalyptic. You are Whitman, you are Poe, you are Mark Twain, you are Emily Dickinson and Edna St. Vincent Millay, you are Neruda and Mayakovsky and Pasolini. You are an American or a non-American. You can conquer the conquerors with words.
Amazing poem to close us with. To the conquerors, to the signalers through flames, thank you once again, all of you, for being here. And we have a bit of a shorter night tonight, but I look forward to seeing you each and every third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. We'll be here. And next month, we'll will be the launch of my book, and so I will be reading for that next month. So thanks again, everyone, and most of all, thank you to Lois for bringing your words and, as always, your enthusiasm for this community. I'm delighted to hear this body of work that has evolved with us. Thank you again. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.